Severe impact could be expected on non-banking financial institutions through reduced or no business during the COVID-19 state of emergency period. Now, to give us insight on what relief measures will be there for consumers, we are now joined by the CEO of NAMFISA, Mr. Kenneth Matomola. Good evening, sir, and thank you so much for your time. Mr. Matomola, are you with us?
Good evening, sir.
Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Most welcome.
Now, NAMFISA has requested financial institutions to provide relief to Namibians. Perhaps you can just outline for us which institutions does this apply to?
As you might be aware, NAMFISA is the regulator of the non-banking sector that cuts across the insurance sector, the medical aid, the micro-lenders, the capital markets like the stock exchange, asset managers, and so forth. Those are the institutions that falls within the ambit of the regulation of NAMFISA. So those are the institutions that we have engaged with.
So what kind of relief can Namibians request from the insurance industry specifically?
When we look at the insurance industry, we have encouraged them to consider premium holidays, especially during the time of the state of emergency, so that the clients can be covered 100%. But again, we would want to ensure that the insurance industry's financial position is not compromised. So those reliefs should cater for financial soundness of a particular insurance company. The other relief that we have discussed with the insurance industry pertains to issues where you have a group life. That should apply to employees when they work at home, not necessarily only when they are at their workplaces, but at home as well should be covered during the time of the state of emergency. We discussed with them the issue of credit life policies, where that claims should not be unduly rejected, as well as the issues relating to explaining to the clients fully to understand the contents of the policies, to know what is included in their policies, what is covered and what is not covered. There are other policies like where you cover your business electronics like laptops and so forth. During this time when people are working from home, those equipment should be covered by the corporate customer policy, other than to be covered only when they are at the work premises. So this should be happening during the state of emergency. And also it might happen that somebody has a motor insurance, his vehicle license is expired. We have encouraged the insurance industry to accept to pay these claims during the period of lockdowns. And also, if a policy expires within the lockdown period, the insurance companies must deem those policies as has been extended. So those are some of the things that we have done for the insurance industry in terms of relief.
Now, Mr. Matomola, I just wanted us to take into consideration that this is a health pandemic that we're dealing with at the moment. What relief measures are in place for Namibians that have medical aid?
Also, we have engaged with the medical aid funds, and we take cognizance that during this period, it will be very difficult for some Namibians to be able to honor their obligation in terms of the medical aid. And one of the issues that we have discussed with the medical aid industry is the issue of the downgrading of medical benefit options. This is normally happens once in a year at the beginning of the year, but now the industry has agreed that this can happen during this time so that we can allow some bit of money to flow into the pockets of those who would want to have a little bit of some money in their pockets to try and cover for the effects or the impact of COVID-19. There are other industries that are so much affected, for example, the tourism sector, among others, because their business depends on the travels and so forth, and people cannot travel during this lockdown, so there's little business that is happening or no business that is happening. We have agreed with the industry that there can be a contribution and benefit freeze that for a given period of time. When that period elapses, when the state of emergency has been lifted, then they are given a little bit of a reasonable time and their cover can be reinstated, and they will not be considered as new members. They will be considered as continuing members. And also it may happen that in terms of the benefit that people have for, say, laboratory tests, consultation and hospitalization that is relating to COVID-19 treatments, that their benefit has depleted. We asking the medical aid funds to look at providing ex gratia allowances or benefits. So those are some of the benefits that we have discussed with the industry as some relief measures in terms of the medical aid funds industry.
Now, Mr. Matomola, just before we run out of time, earlier you were talking about a possibility of payment holidays for some of these specific sectors. Now, what should consumers consider before deciding whether or not to take a payment holiday, and what sort of effects will this have on their policies and so forth going forward?
I think it's quite important for the consumer, firstly, to understand and establish what are the contents of the policy, the new benefit that they are signing for, whether this will cater for their needs other than just taking such type of relief. They might be found that it's not probably saving their needs. So they need to understand before they could sign for those reliefs. They need also to understand what is the impact on the initial contract that they have. Those are the most crucial things that they need to watch for when they go for the relief. They need to ensure that the service providers explains the pros and cons of those reliefs so that they can take an informed decision. That's quite important.
Definitely come in handy for them to ensure that they, of course, make the right decision. Mr. Matomola, thank you so much for making the time to join us once again.
You are most welcome.
Well, there you have it. That was Kenneth Matomola, the CEO of NAMFISA, talking to us about the severe impact that could be expected on the non-banking financial institutions through the reduced or no business during the COVID state of emergency period. And of course, then just touching on some of the benefits and of course, then some of the disadvantages of possibly taking payment holidays. Now, the